Hi and welcome. In this video, we are going to talk about Introduction to Microsoft Azure. Let's first talk about cloud computing. Let's take an example. Suppose you are planning for a wedding. So when you are planning for a wedding, you need to manage many things, and most of the things that you are seeing on screen are needed. But do you buy all of those? No. So the solution is most of the things you take on rent, and probably you are going to hire a wedding planner as well. So the job of wedding planner is that it will manage all the things, all the services that are needed for a wedding so that you can enjoy wedding and not end up doing management of those things and activities. Similarly, cloud computing provider acts as a wedding planner, wherein it will manage all the infrastructure and the services your business needs so that you can focus more on the key areas of your business. So it allows you to take all the stuff from rent, such as compute power, storage, and you don't even need to maintain them. You are going to pay only for the resources or the services that you are actually using and only for the duration that they are actually in use. So we hear a lot of things about elasticity and the scalability when it comes to cloud computing. So we know what is elasticity in physics, but when it comes to cloud computing, elasticity, what is that? Let's take an example. Suppose you have an online web shop. So it is hosted on a web server, and on a normal day, you are expecting a normal load. But as it is an online web shop, so you are expecting more load when it is a festival season. So you don't want your user to have a bad experience, and you have to manage your workload accordingly. So what you need is you allow more compute nodes to be added so that your load is managed. But what if the festival season is over? So you don't want to pay for the resources that are not in use. So what you do is you remove them. So this is known as a scaling. So what we did is as the user increased, so we had a need to increase the compute node. So we had added more resources so that we can serve our customers. So this is known as auto scaling in cloud computing. So this is all done based on the predefined condition that you set. So as your infrastructure could auto scale, so your web application become elastic in nature, which can grow and shrink based on the user need. And you are going to pay only for the resources that you are actually using. For example, on a normal day, you are paying only for a single node, but when user increases, so you are going to pay for multiple nodes. All these things are happening automatically and there is no manual intervention, so your team can focus on key areas of your business and revenue generation, and definitely the productivity will increase. So there are basically three types of clouds: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So when it comes to public cloud, so it is managed by third party and it is run on the internet. So there is a possibility that you can share the resources along with other organization. That means on a particular rack in a data center can give virtual machine to multiple tenants. The benefit of public cloud is that it is a low cost. As it is shared between the organization, so the cost is lower because the third party provider will manage the profit by sharing the resources with other organization. So it is all taken care by the cloud provider. You don't have to maintain them. And as the public cloud provider has the presence in all the countries, so the scalability is not a problem. So it is nearly unlimited scalability and you can rely on the public cloud environment. Second type is a private cloud. So it is nothing but a infrastructure that is owned by a particular business or particular organization. So any IT related operation that an organization does, it is done on a private network. So it is a single tenant requirement. So that is known as a private cloud. So the particular set of infrastructure is shared between the particular set of users that are specific to that organization only. So benefit of private cloud is that it is a more flexible as you have a full control of it. So you have a more flexibility of managing the resources. So as it is run over the private network, only selected users are allowed to use those cloud. So that's why there is an improved security in case of private cloud. So as compared to public cloud, it is not that scalable, but it is scalable up to a certain limit. There are basically three types of private cloud. So you can implement private cloud by three means. So those are hosted private cloud, managed private cloud, and virtual private cloud. So hosted private cloud is nothing but the organization is hosting the infrastructure on their premises and managed by themselves. But in case of managed, the cloud provider, third party cloud provider will provide you the infrastructure, but which will be specific to your organization and it will be managed by third party, but it will be specific to your organization. So virtual private cloud is nothing but a private cloud which is actually implemented on a public cloud environment by using virtual private network. The third type of cloud is hybrid cloud, which is a combination of both public and the private. So it is the best of both worlds. That means you can leverage the benefits of both the clouds based on your requirement. So you can easily move between private and public cloud in this case. That means some of your resources resides in private cloud and some of the services that you use are from the public cloud as well. So that facility is known as hybrid cloud. So cloud busting is an option. That means, for example, you have resources on your private cloud, but for a particular requirement you need to leverage the use of public cloud. That means for online shopping, if that is hosted on your particular private cloud, but on during the festival season, your private cloud environment will not handle that load, so you can leverage the use of public cloud. So the benefit of hybrid cloud is that you can have a full control of it, so that you can easily move between private and public cloud. You have full control of all the resources that resides in your private cloud. You have the flexibility. Cost effectiveness, that means if you are using public cloud environment for a particular duration, just in case of online shopping, if there is a festival season, you can just move your applications to public cloud. So you are only paying for the duration of festival season, and with very much of a ease you can easily move, and slowly gradually you can move your applications and the resources to the public cloud. So the example for public cloud is nothing but the Microsoft Azure platform, or any organization that can implement private cloud environment, or any organization can even implement the combination of both private and the public, known as a hybrid cloud environment. Let's talk about types of services that cloud computing provides. So first is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So these are three main types of service. So first let's talk about infrastructure as a service. Suppose you are an employee of a particular company, and the company has done a deal with some client which want an application to be developed. So initially, suppose you have chosen a particular developer that it can just develop a mobile app for the client, and you have set up all the machines, all the softwares that are needed to develop those applications, so that you have done on your machine. But slowly, client realizes that it is not sufficient and we are not up to the mark, so they decided to hire few more developers. So now they have added three more developers. So now just imagine that the time that they have taken to set up one machine, and now they want to set up the machine for three developers. They want to install all the required softwares and all those stuff on 3 machines. So this is during the development phase. But now the development is done and the app is ready. Now the client says that client does not need more developers because only a single developer can support the application after the development is complete. So consider this scenario. So what are you going to do with all those machines? You have to maintain all those machines that are no longer in use. Considering you don't have enough work. Now let us consider the scenario wherein you will leverage Microsoft Azure for this. So for one developer, you have set up your machine, you have created a virtual machine, you have installed all the software that you need, and you have created a clone copy of that VM. Now, if there are 3 more requirements, then you can just spin up virtual machine from that cloned copy with just a single click. Now, after the development is done, you can obviously deallocate all those machines and you can have only one virtual machine. And now you are paying only for that virtual machine only. So now, as compared to the traditional method and the cloud computing method, you can imagine how faster it is to scale. And you are not, your focus is more on development and not on setting up the machines and all those stuff. And in case of Azure, so it provides you the continuity and the disaster recovery. So if in case of any disaster, so cloud provides you the disaster recovery. So in case there is some failure, so recovery option is there for the cloud. And of course, just in above example, we saw that there was a need to maintain the infrastructure as well. So in case of cloud, you don't have to maintain any infrastructure. So second thing is platform as a service. So let's continue with our previous example. So wherein the app is developed, but now we want that application to be hosted on a production. So now to host that application, so I can consider multiple options. One of them is infrastructure as a service option. So now I decide to just host that application by using infrastructure as a service. So what are the steps that are involved? So first I need to create a server. Then I need to install all the required software on that. Maybe a runtime, maybe a web server, and then I need to deploy those. So all these things I need to take care of. So I need to create a server. I need to create a runtime. I need to just install the web server and deploy all those stuff. So that is in case of infrastructure as a service. So just remember that in this case we are using cloud. But the cloud also provides us second option wherein it is known as a platform as a service and there is something known as an app service. So this is one of the service that Azure provides. So in case of app service, you don't have to worry about what all things that we need to do. So behind the scene, when you say that I need to create an app service, so Azure will take care of creating a virtual machine, creating a runtime and the required web server as well. So you just have to select the app service type. You just have to select the runtime. So based on the decision that you have taken, it will spin up the virtual machine and the required software. So you can see in case of infrastructure as a service, you had to manage all those things. But in case of platform as a service, it is all taken care by the Azure, and within a single with a single click, you have all the things ready, and you can shift faster. That means you don't have to spend much time in creating the resources such as server, runtime, web server, etc. And as your demand grows, you can scale depending on that because the auto scaling feature enables to auto scale based on the predefined condition that we saw earlier. The app service will give you the insights of most of the things. So you can see here we have two options whether to choose between infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. So depending on your need, you can choose the option. So if you want full control of the underlying infrastructure, then you can go for infrastructure as a service. But if you are not worried about the infrastructure and managing it, so you can create a platform as a service option wherein you just have to deploy the code and not worry about the underlying infrastructure. So that is the difference between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Next is software as a service. So for example, there is company X, and for example, there is a new employee that has joined and they have created a desktop for them. They have installed the software such as Outlook, Microsoft Word, Excel, and etc. Now, suppose that that employee needs to travel back to some other location, and now he can't, of course, carry the desktop application, but now he is using some laptop. So when he is working on a particular software, in this case we will take example of Microsoft Word. So the Microsoft Word application that is present in the desktop and the Microsoft Word application that is present in the laptop, that they have a different license. They are not the same. So for a particular employee, if he is using two devices, so he need two license keys if he is using a normal traditional way of installing the software. So again, the problem with this is that if suppose an employee is working on some kind of a file, so the both the Microsoft Word version should be the same or the supported version as well, and that file should be shared between the two devices. Now let us consider the scenario wherein you are using software as a service. So if you are using cloud, so there is a facility called as a Microsoft 365 wherein the account will have access to all the resources, all the software on a cloud. You don't have to buy a license. So this is not a license base, but this is basically based on the subscription. So the same user can access his file, can access the latest version of the Microsoft Word, Microsoft Outlook on any of the devices, irrespective of the license key, because there is no license key needed in case of software as a service because it is a subscription based. So the main difference between the traditional use of the software and software as a service is that the new features are available when you are using software as a service. But in case of traditional applications, so it was not the case because in case of traditional way, only the new bug or the latest updates are there, but the new features were not available if you have purchased that license-based software. You have accessibility over all the devices anytime anywhere in the world. If you have subscription, you can access the resources. So that is the benefit of using software as a service over the traditional way. So here you can see the difference between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So in case of infrastructure as a service, you have to only take care of application data runtime and the middleware. So in case of platform as a service, only application and data that you are worried of. Otherwise, all the things are taken care by the vendor itself. And in case of software as a service, we just have to use the software and all the things are taken care by the vendor. So here are the few services that Microsoft Azure provides us. So in case of infrastructure as a service, you can see under the networking, we have virtual network, load balancer, DNS, express route, and traffic manager. So virtual network is the key concept in networking wherein you can create a virtual private network over the public cloud. So as we saw earlier, so virtual private cloud is one of the type of private cloud which can be implemented in case of private cloud. For the storage, Azure provides us blob storage, Azure files, premium storage. So any file, non-structured data can be stored on blob storage. Under the compute, you have option to create a container service or a virtual machine. Similarly, there are various concepts and services that are provided by Azure in under the security and the management, such as Key Vault. Key Vault is nothing but where you can store your secrets, certificates, and all those stuff. And similarly, for platform as a service, we have option to deploy our web apps, and for that, Microsoft Azure provides web apps. Also, you have logic apps, function apps, notification hubs, API apps. So these are all services that Azure provides us. So based on your need, you can choose between the services. There are multiple services that are available for our single uh, operation that we have. For example, you can create a web app, you can create a function app as well. So depending on the use, you can create and choose the option. So Azure geography. Azure geography is nothing but uh, the data center that are present for a particular country, and the region is nothing but for a particular country there can be multiple regions where the data centers are available, and the availability zone is nothing but first of all, availability zone is nothing but whenever there is a disaster failure, any kind of failure, then you are relying on availability zone. So what if there is a disaster in particular region? So you can recover, you can manage that disaster recovery so through the availability zone. So for a particular region, there are availability zones present nearby. So you can store or you can create a backup of those things on availability zones. So that is known as availability zone. So for now, there is a no, if you take an example of India, so India is nothing but a one geography, and within the India we have three regions. One is the central India, which is located in Pune, and the second is the South India, which is located in Chennai, and the third is West India, which is located in Mumbai. Right now, availability zone is not present in India, but as per the Microsoft documentation, the availability zone in 2021, so which is located at Pune. So, for example, if you create any server in Chennai or Mumbai, then you can choose the availability zone as a central India, which is Pune from 2021. Thank you.